Hello?
Hey girl, I've been trying to call you all week.
Oh, so sorry. I've had a million missed calls and I just haven't been able to get through them all. I'm just so busy.
Can you come over?
I told you, I can't go out on the weekdays anymore. I'm on the verge of getting my dream job.
Oh, are you seriously going through with that?
If I can be a better singer, this might make me a way better composer.
I miss you, Shyla. And I miss your kisses and...
I'm pulling into the drive. I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.
Okay, but...
Love is a rebellious bird. Opens on a premise steeped in aspiration and hope. Shyla arriving for vocal lessons with a singer whose work she has clearly admired for years. And this detail matters more than it might initially seem, because admiration of this kind, the specific, career-shaping admiration a young artist feels for someone whose work has already achieved what she hopes to achieve herself, carries an intensity that can easily be mistaken for something else entirely. And the story's real subject, beneath its musical trappings, is the difficulty of untangling genuine artistic mentorship from the equally genuine, equally powerful current of personal attraction that can run alongside it, especially when the mentor in question is magnetic, accomplished, and fully aware of the effect her presence tends to have on the people who study under her. Bree's position as an established vocal instructor carries real authority over Shyla's development as an artist, shaping not just her technique, but potentially her confidence, her opportunities, her sense of her own talent and worth. And this authority is precisely why the story's decision to have Bree recognize the growing charge between them and choose, deliberately, not to let that charge play out inside the lesson itself, matters so much. Because a mentor who understands the weight her guidance carries in a student's development also understands that acting on personal feeling while that student remains under her instruction risks contaminating the student's ability to distinguish between genuine artistic growth and a closeness manufactured or accelerated by romantic interest. And Bree's restraint here should be read as a mark of respect for Shyla's actual talent and trajectory, not a rejection of whatever real feeling exists. The musical metaphor at the heart of the story, the vivid image of Shyla's voice as an instrument capable of being tuned, plucked, brought to its fullest resonance, deserves to be read with real care, because there is nothing inherently troubling about a teacher recognizing an untapped fullness in a student's talent and working to help her access it. This is, after all, the entire purpose of mentorship, to see potential the student may not yet fully recognize in herself, and to help draw it out through patient, skilled attention. And the story's tension comes precisely from how easily this legitimate creative intimacy, the trust required for a singer to let a teacher hear and shape her most vulnerable, unpolished sound, can start to feel like romantic intimacy, because both require similar things: vulnerability, close attention, a willingness to be truly heard, and distinguishing between a teacher helping an artist find her authentic voice and a teacher using that process as a vehicle for something more personal requires exactly the kind of self-awareness and restraint that Bree demonstrates by keeping those two forms of intimacy carefully separated, rather than letting one collapse into the other. What makes this dynamic resonate so specifically for queer women is the recognition that admiration for a mentor's skill and admiration for a mentor as a person can feel, from the inside, disorientingly identical, especially for a young artist who has spent years studying this particular singer's recordings, absorbing her phrasing, her choices, her sound, before ever meeting her in person. Because that kind of long-distance artistic devotion primes a person to receive the mentor's actual presence, her attention, her voice offering direct correction and encouragement, with an intensity that can easily tip into something more personal. And many queer women will recognize this particular confusion from their own formative experiences. The difficulty of knowing whether you want to be someone or whether you want to be with her, whether the flush of excitement you feel in her presence is professional inspiration or something else entirely. And the fact that these two forms of intensity can coexist and even feed each other without canceling each other out is part of what makes mentor relationships between women so emotionally rich and so ethically complicated to navigate responsibly. Bree's choice to hold the boundary, then, rather than resolving the tension through the lesson itself, should be read as evidence of exactly the kind of hard-won maturity that makes her a good teacher in the first place, because she is able to recognize her own feelings honestly, without denial or performative distance, while still understanding that acting on those feelings while Shyla remains her student would risk making Shyla's growth as an artist inseparable from her role as an object of Bree's romantic interest. And a mentor genuinely invested in a student's development has to be willing to ask which matters more, the immediate gratification of mutual attraction or the sustained, unclouded space the student needs to develop her own voice and confidence. Without that development becoming entangled with romantic dynamics, she may not yet have the experience or independence to navigate safely. And this same tension shows up constantly in real queer community, where the relatively small, overlapping nature of queer artistic and professional circles means mentors and mentees, teachers and students, more established women and those still finding their footing, are constantly brought into close proximity, constantly required to do the careful, often invisible work of holding boundaries around relationships that might otherwise slide easily into something more personal, precisely because the community is small enough and precious enough that losing access to genuine mentorship over a romantic complication carries real cost. The unresolved tension between Bree and Shyla, then, the charge that exists in the room during their lessons together, the awareness each woman carries of what isn't being said, deserves to be understood as its own form of intimacy, rather than as merely a frustrated absence of one, because restraint chosen deliberately, restraint that comes from real feeling being consciously managed rather than never having existed at all, communicates a particular kind of respect and care that instant gratification never could. And Shyla, watching her mentor hold this line even while the chemistry between them remains obvious to both of them, is learning something valuable about what genuine respect looks like, being seen fully, being desired honestly, and still being protected from a dynamic that could complicate or diminish her own artistic development. And this lesson, communicated not through words but through Bree's consistent, careful behavior, may end up being one of the most valuable things Shyla takes from these lessons. More valuable perhaps than any specific vocal technique. The understanding that real care sometimes looks like someone choosing not to take something they both want, in order to protect something even more important, the space Shyla needs to become fully herself, as an artist and eventually whenever the teaching relationship no longer stands between them. Perhaps as someone free to explore that unspoken current on equal footing, outside the shadow of any authority one holds over the other.